My name is Christopher Maldonado, and I love the martial arts. I love teaching, and I love practicing. Luckily, or maybe as one of my teachers would say, fate has brought us together for a reason. In my life, I've had the good fortune to be able to train with some exceptional teachers who truly helped shape me as a martial artist. One of the things I enjoyed most were my talks with them about the old days. And to that, here's a talk with a martial arts teacher, Dean Chapman Sensei. I'm here with Sensei Chapman. In my line of instructors, one up, so he's like my grandfather instructor, I guess, to a degree. I don't know if you like that explanation. Sensei Chapman has practiced Goju-Ryu, how many years, sir?
This is 52.
52 in Shoryuken Goju-Ryu. And I have some questions I love to ask, and thank you again for sitting down and talking with me.
Thank you.
Please, sir, state your name, your rank, your designation, and if you could, your principal teacher.
Okay.
And if there's multiple, then multiple.
Yes, and that's a little tricky because it has been over a long period of time. So my rank is 8th degree in Goju-Ryu. I have 8th degree in Kobudo as well. And I also do Shorin-Ryu and Kung Fu.
Hi.
So I've been doing it a long time.
A long time.
When I was young, they had a Kung Fu club in my school. And one day we were waiting for the Kung Fu guys to quit. They were fighting, and we were all standing there waiting for karate class. And my sensei came in and said, "Oh, Kung Fu fight karate." And so we went out and we sparred the Kung Fu guys. And I fought a brown belt. I was a brown belt. I was a headhunter back then, my feet. And first thing I did was a spinning wheel kick to his head, which usually got people. And he dropped to the ground and did a spinning 360-degree sweep. And I jumped back and I'm like, "Whoa, what was that?" And he was kind of like, "What was that?" And afterwards, my sensei came over to my mom and said, I was about 14 at the time, and went to my mom and said, "Well, he'd be good at Kung Fu too, $15 a month." And so we started taking Kung Fu, me and my sister. In fact, the guy that I fought in it is now my praying mantis teacher.
Hi.
We're still friends.
And his name, sir?
Mark Van Skyver. He's in close to Atlanta somewhere, Columbus maybe, Georgia. But it's kind of neat to have friends that go that far back.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I just saw Dr. Long. He just had his 90th birthday. He's the Grand Master of the Kung Fu system. Qingyi Kung Fu.
Qingyi Kung Fu, yeah. All right. So what was what year did you first start training?
1973.
1973.
I don't remember when. I'm assuming it was when school started, 73. So it would have been the fall of 73.
In 73, I think there was a bit of a martial arts craziness. What were you expecting?
Yes. Kung Fu was on. Bruce Lee died that year. So that was the height of his popularity, probably for another, I don't know, at least 4 or 5 more years. Bruce Lee was just crazy popular. You know, every karate magazine had something about him in it. He was just it. And they had Kung Fu the series. I remember eagerly coming in from karate class to watch Kung Fu. Yeah. And I'm older, so the first ones I saw was a Green Hornet. It had Bruce Lee in it. Now, we didn't know who he was back then.
I think they call it the Kato series in China.
I don't know. It was good.
I want to talk about your major teacher in Goju.
My major teacher was Ichiro Takahata.
Can you tell me a little bit about him? His demeanor, what was his teaching style like?
He's not the way I remember him still. He's gotten really, really nice. I remember them telling me he treats you like this because he cares about you and he wants you to be good. That's why he doesn't treat the other ones that way. And I can remember thinking, well, I kind of wish he didn't like me. Because it was hard-style Japanese training. It was Okinawan karate, but it was hardcore.
Was he Japanese or was he Okinawan?
Japanese.
Japanese.
And it was, that was during the karate craze. And so the classes were packed. No air conditioning, no heat. Heat usually wasn't a problem that much. The air conditioning there was like one fan in there. So you wanted to stand in line in that spot. But different things from the dojos nowadays was learning Sanshin. They had footprints over on the floor. And I was so little that my feet went in between the footprints to do the stepping.
Steps. Hi.
And yeah, up and down the floor. Sometimes there would be so much sweat on the floors that people would be having to mop it up with their detox. And it wasn't unusual for people to pass out or throw up or
Hi.
be incontinent.
Hi.
Yeah, we didn't get water break. Every once in a while, maybe a water break, but they didn't do that back then.
So you talk about Sensei Takahata. You talked about Sifu
Ben Skyver.
Who else have you learned from, sir?
Tom Haggerty, I studied from him before I got my brown belt. My mom got a private lesson from Takahata Sensei to get me ready for my brown belt test. And my mother wasn't very happy with it. And $10 an hour back then.
Mm-hmm.
And she took me to one of his students that spoke better English, named Tom Haggerty. And he was responsible for a lot. He had private lessons, 5 for $25.
Do either one of them still teach?
Tom Haggerty passed away. Takahata Sensei came out of retirement a while back, but he's had some really bad health conditions, and so he really can't do anything right now. I try to go see him at least once a year, and he's a lot nicer now. It's amazing.
How many of the students, I guess, from your class at that time
Still around?
Still around, still teaching, and how do they compare to how you teach?
I teach more stuff, and I'm having to work that because we're applying for membership with Japan, and it's been 50-something years, and we're Americans. It's different here.
Right.
Plus, I learned stuff that they don't do anymore. They've forgotten. So it's going to be a workable thing, but several of them still teach. One of them would actually, I consider him one of my teachers. His name is Roger Hurt, and he has a small club in I think it's Oklahoma City, either Oklahoma City or Edmond, and he still trains hard. He's still and his wife is a black belt too. Out of my direct class, they would have been my seniors. She was a brown belt when I started, and I remember she gave me a black eye, a bad one, from a spinning wheel kick. She doesn't remember it. I remember it. Yeah, I remember it. And Roger was a second degree when I started. So yeah, and the other guys that were around, Chris Pullman had his own karate school. He was ahead of us a little bit, and he has a very successful dojo in western Oklahoma. So he would have gotten his black belt 6 months or a year before I did, but he's still teaching. He has, like I said, a very successful club. And then Tom Haggerty's top students were Tony Gjordas and Chris Fay. So Chris Fay is with us right now, so he works with us. And Tony Gjordas and I were pretty good friends, so he still does goju.
Do y'all get together and
usually
cross-reference?
Yes. In fact, we're hoping to do that this May.
Okay, I feel like I'm jumping around in some of the questions, but what drew you to the martial arts?
Bullying. My parents talked about it for a long time because I was real small at school, and I'd get, I don't know if I was mouthy or what, but I was getting beat up a lot. And the advice back then was make them bleed, let them know they had a fight. Don't make it easy. And one of the last times I would have been in probably 7th grade, my 2 big boys and 2 younger boys jumped me. And the 2 bigger boys were holding me and letting me, the other boys hit me. And some guy yelled. And when the guy yelled, I kicked one of them in the shin and got away from him, but I had a black eye and a bloody nose. And my parents took me immediately, started taking me all over, and they narrowed it down to 2 schools. One was Jim Buten's school, which is a very famous fighter, He's still alive. And the other was Takahata Sensei. And they couldn't go between the two. One was all nice and clean and everything. The other one smelled bad. They put me in the one that smelled bad. Yeah. I still remember the smell. There was boxing gloves that we hated to put on. They were awful.
Like parents at the time, this is the place that's going to make you tough.
Absolutely. That was the exact words. We're going to keep you from getting killed.
That kind of answered my next question. Was a chance to,
and it did work.
Seek it out?
Yeah, it did work.
Yeah. When you got in that position, your parents were looking for something. Were you thinking, I'd like to learn boxing, or I'd like to learn karate, or was it?
I didn't know. I don't remember, and I don't know. My mom wanted karate. My mom got a black belt too.
Oh, really?
In fact, she was a founding director of my organization.
Oh, gosh.
Disbanded back in 2015, but she was buried in her gi, and her pallbearers were black belts.
Oh, really? Wow.
It was a karate funeral. My dad was a black belt too. My sisters got up to brown.
Tell me a little bit, what was the training like? As compared to then and now?
Tough. Very tough.
I've talked to
I know lots of military people, and military boot camp didn't have anything on karate training. In fact, there was a lot of similarities, I think. It was very tough. Most people didn't make it. The old way of thinking, which is an easier way of teaching, really, maybe not as successful in the long run. The old way of teaching was you're weeding them out. You're taking 100 people and you're whittling them down to one. Take 1,000 people and you get a good black belt out of them. And nowadays, for one thing, we would be in jail if we taught like Sensei did. It bordered on abuse. It probably was. Especially when children were involved. I'm a survivor.
Yeah, no.
Not to lighten that any, but it was survival. It was.
Yeah.
And it makes you tough. You didn't think you could do 100 push-ups. And next thing you know, you're laughing about it. You know, you're doing them on your fingertips and knuckles. And the same thing, you're doing them with your foot on your back.
Yeah.
The other one was, we went probably 4 or 5 times a week or more. And then later on, I took 4 hours of Kung Fu class also every week. We did karate all the time.
Tell me,
and people don't nowadays. You're lucky to get 2 nights a week out of people.
Yeah.
For an hour. I liked it better once I was a brown belt.
Did you?
But I was threatened with it too, especially when I was a teenager. I'll just take you up there and let a churro straighten you out.
How long was the classes?
One of them was he had different ones. My mother and dad. My dad went to the ladies' class. He wasn't serious like the rest of us. He liked to go to the ladies' class, and it was an hour at lunch.
An hour.
He worked nights, so he could go to that and then go on to work from there. And my mom and I usually went to the afternoon class, which was an hour and a half. And my mom a lot of times would drop me off, and then she would come back. She had friends in the night class. And so she would come and do the night class. So it was 2 hours. And so a lot of times she dropped me off and gave me some money to buy something to eat and came back.
I asked if Nakato Sensei was from Japan, and talking with my old instructor, and he would tell me it's like they'd have class and the instructor would come out and he'd tell somebody come out to show something, and then like you had to figure it out right then. Was it close to that? Was it changing? Was it?
I'm not sure exactly. And my memory bounces back and forth over that period. That was a long time ago. And I remember more later after I'm thinking about it. But each class had its own. One reason we went to both classes, or different classes, was each one had a different atmosphere. Evening class had more advanced students. And there were certain black belts that you really wanted to be around. Roger Sensei I talked about, Roger Hurd. He was one of the ones that we would go when he was going to be there.
Is he still around? Or is he...
Yes. I talked to him pretty regularly, texting usually.
Nice.
And he's very good still. He was a lot. I don't know how much of my teacher he was, how responsible he was. He doesn't remember it like I do either. I was just a little kid, I'm sure. I think that one of the biggest things was it wasn't consistent. It was consistently hardcore, but it wasn't consistent like we think we have to have a set program. We do every single thing.
Yes.
We kind of did. We did a lot of up and down the floor, punching, blocking, kicking. Very little weaponry or anything. that was what I always wanted, was weapons. So when I got on my own, that's what I did. I searched for weapons. That's why I do lots of weapons now. But the a lot of emphasis on basics, and a lot of just repetitive training. Standing in shikodachi and punching till your arms, you couldn't hardly punch anymore. A lot of contact, a lot of bruises. Okinawan tattoo. People were usually proud of the bruises. They're proud of the blood.
Yes.
I remember people being horrified of the punching bag because it was covered in blood. I was all proud. Yeah, that's still mine. So we don't teach like that anymore.
No.
I'd even, in fact, my students, I teach them iron palm. I teach them makiwara, but I teach them iron palm, and I give them Chinese medicine to put on their hands.
Not the jow.
Yeah, so they don't hurt themselves.
Hi.
So it's a lot different.
The
You can still have tough students, so.
no, definitely.
Some of it has to be them, though. That's the big deal. Back then, it was forced on you. Now they have to do it.
They have to, yeah.
And even when I teach, I don't want to sit there and make them do push-ups. You know, I've got other things to do. You can find anyone to do that. So it's really on them to do it, to have a self-discipline, to lift some weights and yeah.
Yes. I mean,
Cardio. And nowadays, one of the things that is around that wasn't around back then was the state of training, physical training has stepped up drastically, almost like NASA. You know, I mean, they're like when they do rehabilitation and stuff. I mean, they just really have a lot better idea of things than they did back then.
yeah, there's a definite advantage of now knowing how to train and how to overtrain and how to
Yes.
whatnot.
And that wasn't ever discussed.
Do it.
Get off! Why don't you lay down? How'd you do karate? I remember, I think it was Chris Pullman telling me about that one time. He said that I think Tony Chidordas, which was retired in the top 10 of PK, I think it was PKA, full contact. He was in the top 10, retired. And he said one time, I think Tony Chidordas caught Chris Pullman and dropped him to the ground. And he said, Chiro came over there. He said he thought he was going to die. And the sensei was like, yo, no practice karate, laying down, take a nap. So yeah, it was different.
What do you? And I know everything's. I think the older I've gotten, the more I love kata. You know?
Yes.
But what do you think is the most important? I mean, kata, bunkai, kasai, drills, sparring.
There's different. That's really a simple but complicated question because the most serious, the most important thing is basics.
Yeah.
Keep basics. Good kicks, blocks, punches, stances. Everything else can be figured out, can be learned, can be supplemented. If there's no substitute for good basics. When I go to other systems and train, it's a lot easier for me because I'm not having to be taught everything.
Another part of training and conditioning, because you just talk about makiwara, you talk about using the dajal to
I'm a firm believer in the bit.jal. There's a lot of fake jals that aren't very good. But a good jowl really, it would cost you a fortune even with insurance to get the same things you get from the jowl. And the biggest thing is use it pre-injury. You put it on before you're going to be making hard contact. You put it on before you're going to be hitting the makiwara, the punching bag. And you don't just put it on your knuckles. You put it on your wrist, you put it on your elbows, and you do that before you train.
Conditioning.
Yes,
That's all together.
Right now, I teach mostly black belts and mostly teachers. So what I try to do is convey stuff. A lot of people are teaching out of rec centers, so it's really hard to do makiwara training. It's really hard to. We were just told to beat it, and then it heal, and you beat it again, and then you heal, and eventually it doesn't hurt or bleed. And there's bad things about that. You see people. My hands hurt sometimes. Of course, karate wasn't the only thing, and I used to do things that we consider really stupid now. Like I worked construction in college, and I would sit over there at break and punch on the concrete, and that's stupid. So we teach a little different now.
A little different now.
I do knuckle push-ups where they graded the gravel, or not gravel, the cement in it was rough to make my knuckles tough.
Right.
Well, you don't want to do that. It hurts those are your joints.
Right.
So I use a combination. I make them Most people I have to make be a little tougher. People really aren't as tough as they used to be. And,
We haven't.
and they're worried about hurting their fingers because they use the keyboard all the time. So I usually teach the iron palm is like a specialty thing. I'll throw it in sometimes. I have a research group that I like. I'm getting ready to relaunch it again. We practice new things that I'm learning that are new to me. They help me learn them. And like getting back on the bagua. Bagua is very hard to learn, very difficult. So I get guys doing it with me. So people are learning what I'm learning, and we bring in people that, and we also do stuff that I've been doing over a period of 50 years. And one of the things I do ever so often is I'll do a little class on arm palm.
See, what you're talking about
And
right now.
telling them about not hurting their joints.
What you're talking about right now is another question I was going to ask you was you were talking about bagua and talking about the other arts.
Yes.
How do you feel you've been able to like bring them together?
It's difficult to explain it. People don't understand it. And I don't recommend people going and training more than art exactly. I do Kobudo and karate. I believe they are, like one of my teachers said, they're opposite sides of the coin. Okay? It might have been Kimura Sensei that did that, said that. One side is weapons, one side's without weapons. It's the same thing. So the weapons teach you hand conditioning, they teach you empty hands, teach you weapons teach you empty hands. I don't think you can be a well-rounded martial artist if you're not good at least the basic weapons. I do a little bit expanded syllabus of those.
Hi.
You're thinking you can, yeah. I have piles of them, so it's kind of a problem. But you're using long ones, short ones, spiked ones, metal ones, wood ones, flexible, and so it kind of really helps understanding of things. And the other arts, I expose my students to Tai Chi. I expect all of my black belts to at least have a passing knowledge of it, and I introduce them to our American White Crane system, which was my teacher and some others. They were researching the old pre-karate before it was really karate, and some interesting stuff. It's really neat. There's a larger variety of strikes. You're striking with your thumbs, your toes, every part of your hand.
See, that kind of comes into this last question right here. Is like, what do you feel is missing in the karate here in the States that
I think
is
it's more
probably
than the
still practiced?
States, but especially in the States. It's basics. Basics and toughness. The basics are really poor because people don't want to put the time into it. And if you're teaching, if you're paying rent, you can't do like our teacher did. He opened up a bar instead of the dojo, in the dojo. So, when the karate Kung Fu mania went away, most of the karate guys went out of business in Kung Fu. Because if you were good, you had to produce good students, and you taught the way they used to teach, you couldn't make it. And I try to still give my students what I got without being too abusive. I try to give them a little taste of it. It's easier to offend people nowadays, and it's easier to hurt them nowadays than it would have been back then.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's basics, definitely. When in the old days, there wasn't much advance. So people, and I noticed that right off, and people would quit at black belt because of that, because there really wasn't much after black. A lot of the schools in Texas, they added stuff. So you would get learn jiu-jitsu after black belt. So a lot of the pioneer guys, that's what they did. And there was a guy around in this area that introduced a lot of the guys to bits and pieces of doju. So they would add that to their system.
Yeah, just to keep people.
Well, to have more.
They have more.
To have more. And there wasn't YouTube. It wasn't even VHS back then.
I heard that was Motobo Choki's problem. Was that he was a great teacher. People couldn't beat him up, but he didn't teach that much. And once he taught what he knew, the students were like, "Is there something else?"
Well, and I was told that about some of the modern teachers.
Oh, really?
I don't want to name any names because I don't mean any of them.
Yeah,
They have to keep. Eskrima was the one. It's Eskrima or Kali, the Filipino Mars. And I know lots of people that practice them, so I'm not talking about any of them. But they have to keep it interesting if people come back.
Right.
So I teach it, actually it's in the Eskrima form, but I call it Tondo, my Kobudo club, and it's from Nagramana Eskrima.
Mm-hmm.
It's from a Ishiru master, but it has 5 strikes. That's the basis of the system. It's 5. My experience is the really simple stuff is hard to do, and so I think people think of your training as either being circular or linear, and I don't think either one of those is really correct. I think it's more of what's that? Serpentine, is that right? Or is it, it's like a chain. You go down and you learn this. Now you learn this. Now you go back and you learn that. Now you go up and you learn this. Now you go back and you learn that.
I was talking about it's like a spiral.
Okay, a spiral.
To me, it's a spiral. It's just like, okay, I got good here.
And
I keep going deeper and deeper and deeper.
And I don't think it stops really. So I think it's possible. And we don't really know what those people learned. A lot of what we hear wasn't true. It was partially true, or was.
There's always embellishment.
We don't really know. We don't really know. If you went to my students and you said, did Dean Chapman teach this kata? And there's people that have trained with me over 20 years, they wouldn't know if I taught it or not, because I taught it to somebody else. I didn't teach everybody. And you have to assume that the masters did the same thing.
Yeah.
And you have to assume a lot of the modern karate came from teaching young people. And you teach a 15-year-old different than you teach a 25-year-old.
Right.
You teach a 40-year-old different than you teach an 18-year-old. And you have to assume that they did the same thing.
I know even when like C-Lot, I had an instructor, he would tell me, he goes, okay, now this is what is considered the old man curriculum.
Yes.
So it was less, less
and
acrobatic.
In karate, that can be a compliment.
I
To tell you, do old man karate.
What year did you get your first time?
June 4th, 1976.
76.
So this will be my 49th black belt anniversary.
Wow. How was the examination?
Very tough. It wasn't as hard as my EQ went. And he failed me on my EQ. I almost quit karate. He failed me. And I had a black belt partner, and he messed up on one of the 2-man sets or something, and the Cheryl, he failed me. And so my black belt test wasn't as hard as either one of my brown belt tests.
I was going to say, I'm like, wow, okay.
And you don't know why they do stuff like that, but you never really knew why, because he didn't speak English hardly.
Okay, here's a question. I like the older guy. Distinguished. Have you ever been in a physical altercation and using what you know? And what did you learn from it?
When I was younger, I would say it's kept me out of a lot of fights. I would also say that choking has kept me out of several fights, but I found out that's called assault by strangulation.
I think so.
I don't think they had that term back then.
No.
But a lot of it for me was being skilled enough I didn't have to fight.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I remember one time, I had long hair back then, and I'm a little bit redneck right now, but I didn't used to be. I had long hair, and I've even had my hair tied back and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in a redneck area teaching karate. And I remember going to a keg party out in the country somewhere. And I went over to get a beer, and this guy grabbed both of my hands. He said, okay, what are you going to do with your karate right now? And I just went, it was spontaneous. I just went like this. And I had my hands on him, and I said, what do you want me to do? And he said, let me get you a beer. And he got me a beer. And then I was dating a girl that was a calf roper. And her ex-husband put out the word he was going to get me. He showed up at my karate school. Knocked on the door, come out here. I walked out there, and he started telling me stuff, and I listened to him a little bit, and I said, you know what? I don't have time for this. I've got to go teach my karate class. Come back after class. And he didn't ever come back. But I heard he was looking for me, but he never did. And lots of scenarios like that where one of the self-defense techniques that I teach that was actually used in Rome. The University of Dallas has their junior year. They do a semester in Rome. And one of the girls woke up and someone was in her room and had her by the hand. And she did that same move and kneed him in the groin. And he yelled and went out the window. And that same one has kept me out of a lot and not being intimidated. Because, you know, they realize, and I guess they can tell you're sitting there looking at their neck while they're...
Who has impressed you the most in the martial arts? I mean, not including Takahata Sensei or
I've been fortunate enough to train with some phenomenal people. Some of them I would have stayed with them. I didn't like their organization, and at the time the cost just seemed so crazy. And back in the old days, just going to Oklahoma was a long ways. Much less of going to Japan or New York. Or New York was like another country back then. And so any of those that had those stipulations where you have to go places, that was kind of like, I can't afford this. Yeah. And I was able to train with Oyata Sensei. Enough to have him do stuff on me and actually see him. And on the videos they have of him, he's impressive, but it's different when you were there. And they criticize him for hitting people hard. That's not what I remember. I remember him just dropping people. I remember him touching you and it was like magic.
Yeah.
He was very impressive. One of my teachers was a man named Tony Sandoval, and he was probably the most skilled American that I've been around. And a lot of it was just uncanny natural, what he could do. So that's who I try to emulate. And I was able to train with Fusei Kisi some. And I was fortunate enough to be at a small attended event one time, and so I actually got to do Kochikiate with him, hit arms. And when you train with those guys, they're like this tall. So it's different. And you don't really realize the karate is being done by people that are 4'5", 4'8" maybe, and how deadly they are. And so when you get to see those people, it changes the way you look at the karate. Seeing somebody 280 pounds doing it, an athlete, is different than seeing an old guy that smokes doing it. Yeah, that just touches your finger, it touches you, you know, and it's not fake because you're there and they did it to you. And Fusei Kisei was, you hear a lot of criticism of him, but I actually got to see him do some things, and I know some of his students. So to me, he was very impressive. He just didn't do a lot at the seminars. When you were with Oyata was out there knocking people out. Fusei Kisei didn't do as much of that. Now maybe behind doors with the senior students. So I think he's underrated because of that people didn't see him actually doing a lot on them. And those are the highest caliber of people probably. I have some friends nowadays. I'm getting old. A lot of my friends have been doing karate 40, Kung Fu 40, 50 years. So Dr. Van Sciver is an exceptional martial artist. Dr. Wong.
Dr. Wong.
Yes, he's 90 now, so he's retiring and not doing as much as he was. But he's in the internal arts, just phenomenal.
Okay, now this next question, kind of goofy. Favorite martial art movie?
I'm not a martial art movie
Really?
guy. Everyone says that. I'm not a gun guy either.
No Chuck Norris movie? No. Bruce Lee movie? No.
Let me think. I need to rewatch all the Bruce Lee movies. All my friends would want to make me watch Kung Fu movies, and I never did like them, really. I'm trying to... The one I remember liking a lot that was just like a good family movie was called Best of the Best.
Best of the Best. You didn't like Karate Kid?
Karate Kid shows I like because we do paint up, paint down.
Hi.
And I thought they had a good message to them.
Hi.
But
And lastly, what would you like your legacy in all this to be?
That's a good question, because at this age you think about it a lot. I'm starting back teaching beginners again this year. I've been putting it off for a long time, different reasons. And the legacy I would like to have really is good students.
Hi. Yeah,
That's really what I would like. And I'd like to be remembered as a good teacher and a good technician, because I've worked hard at it.
I think if you produce good students, that would be a validation that you were a good teacher.
The things lose importance over the years, like the rank. I think of rank as a tool. I think of it as an organizational thing where you stand in line and there's people I don't want to outrank me in business. So the rank doesn't mean what it is. And you start thinking about things like you want your name to be known. And you're thinking, golly, I wasted a lot of time trying to be a good teacher. If you don't have a lot of students around, you wasted that time. And I think that happened a lot in the past. I think we probably, during World War II alone, we lost a lot of karate. We'll never know. Karate was completely changed because of World War II.
Yep. Miyagi Sensei lost his
everything.
His best student, like with two of his
Shinzato.
children. Shinzato,
He also lost all of his collections of everything. It wiped out most written records. Every once in a while, they still find something
Right.
somewhere.
Right.
And one of the hardest things now researching is the revisionism.
I always think that World War II was, in a weird way, almost a good thing for karate in a sense, because so many instructors lost so many students. They were more willing to teach everything to everybody.
And they were starving.
Yeah. So
The military there kept those people alive. They were teaching karate to feed their families.
Before that they pick one student to teach everything.
Yes, and if something happened to that student,
That was it.
they lost it. That's it. Yes.
So.
And I've done a lot of teaching other styles where they just get a piece of stuff. One of the things that a lot of people have gotten from me is introduced them to weapons. Goju, a lot of people, they heard of Goju. Master Taguchi is something I've been working on now, and my teacher is do my teacher recognition and Master Taguchi's name spread, which he is. Back in when I was younger, nobody had ever heard of Taguchi. He wasn't in any of the books. And so now there's becoming a lot more interest.
Did you ever get a chance to go to Japan?
I haven't been to Japan yet. We're planning to go in March of next year. I got to meet Master Taguchi once. And unfortunately, I was a child and I didn't understand the importance of it.
Hi.
I just remember that he was very nice, and I remember him doing stuff on Takahata Sensei. And it's funny your memories though, because I'm just now getting work. In my head, until recently, Takahata Sensei was like 6'5" and like the Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
And he did power lift
Back in the day.
back in the day. And he's about to hear on me. And it's taken me quite a while to reconcile
So
it.
put those memories together.
Even after I was adult, every time I go up there to see him, I'm still expecting to look up.
Look up, hi. Well, sir, I really appreciate this time. I really do. Practice martial arts for a long time, and it's what I enjoy doing. And it's truly an honor to talk to somebody like you.
It's an honor to be
No, it really is, sir, to talk to someone like you. You've dedicated so much of your life to doing something that I really love. You know what I'm saying?
And it is fun when people like what you do.
It is. Again, I thank you. I'm sure your students thank you, even if they don't tell you enough. but because in a real sense, you become like a lot of people's fathers.
That's
you know what I'm saying? You really do. Say again, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I
appreciate your time, and I appreciate. Thank you. And he is. Oh, by the way, he is my karate grandfather. In a sense. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.